I love Oriental food. I love Chinese food, and I love Chinese cooking. But one of the problems I have is some of these foods are quite unique. They're not always found in the major stores. Sometimes you have to go to specialty shops to get some of these ingredients, and they have a very short shelf life. And one of the issues is I just don't use this food fast enough to where they will start to spoil. So in this episode of freeze drying, I'm going to see how many of these foods will freeze dry well. Well, one of the staples in Chinese cooking is ginger. Well, ginger will freeze dry really well. I've done that before. There's no problem with freeze drying ginger, and ginger root is by far probably one of the most common ingredients that there are in Chinese cooking. The issues that face freeze drying are the same in other foods, and that's sugar, salt, and oil. Now, a couple of these ingredients have a lot of oil. We've got chili oil, and we have fried chilies in oil. The number one oil in this is soybean oil, and I've tried doing foods with oil, and it has just been a total failure. This is just pretty much all oil with a little bit of seasoning. These are actually chilies in oil. I'm not going to try this one. I may try this one. This one right here, the fried chili in oil, only has a shelf life of 18 months. So this is just one of those items. Oil is just difficult to do anything with freeze dry unless you can treat the oil. The second part is with this fish sauce and the soy sauce. Both of these are very heavy in salt, and salt is like an antifreeze. Salts are very hard to do, but I'm going to dilute these down quite a bit. Now, one of the issues with the soy sauce and the fish sauce is in recipes, it only calls for maybe a teaspoon or a tablespoon. It doesn't require a lot of those ingredients. So if I dilute this down enough, I only have to get maybe a half a cup of net powder to add to recipes. So I feel pretty confident about these. The hoisin sauce and the oyster sauce, these have a lot of, well, they have a certain amount of salt, but they also have a lot of sugar in them. And I'm confident I can take care of the sugar items as I've done in the past. I have not done the this type of oyster sauce, and I've not done the black soybeans and the soybean paste. But it seems that the ingredients in here are pretty decent to where I think I can be successful in freeze drying these. So if I can freeze dry my ingredients, I don't have to throw them out after a couple of months, and I'll save some money, and we'll see how things go. Like I said, I really like Chinese food, and we'll see what we can do as far as freeze drying. I've prepared all my liquids. The first one I'm going to be doing is soy sauce. Now, what I've done this time, I've tried doing these ingredients once before in a 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 solution, and the liquids were still too salty to freeze properly. And during the freeze drying process, any liquids that weren't frozen boiled and just made a mess out of my freeze dryer. So this time I'm doing a 1-to-5 ratio with the soy sauce and the other ingredients. Now, soy sauce, the third ingredient on the soy sauce is salt. And so what I'm doing is I'm doing a 1-to-5 ratio, so 1 part soy sauce, 5 parts water. I put a half a cup of soy sauce in here with 2.5 cups of water. And this will be poured directly into the tray in my freezer or in my freeze dryer, so I don't spill the trays as I'm going to and fro to my freezer. The next item is fish sauce. Now, if you haven't tried fish sauce, you might as well go out and drink some ocean water. That's how salty this stuff is. Next to anchovy extract, the number one ingredient in this is salt. I've tried this before and it has failed, So I'm hoping that a 1 to 5 solution of fish sauce will be more successful this time. The last one is oyster sauce. Now oyster sauce it's not the same as hoisin sauce, but it is in the comparison to the amount of sugar. The second ingredient, well, on this one we have water, oyster extract, and then sugar. So oyster sauce has a lot of sugar. I've been able to freeze dry Hershey's syrup, caramel syrup, Nutella on a 1 to 3 ratio. This is a 1 to 5 ratio, so I think I'm going to be pretty successful in doing oyster sauce. The fish sauce and the soy sauce still is in question because of the high salt content. And in this tray, I have my fresh ground ginger root, and then I have what's called prepared soybeans, prepared black soybeans, and this is a pre-prepared ingredient that has the soybeans, it has water chestnuts, bamboo shoots, and then the last one here is black soybean paste. This also has some salt in it, but because it's not in a liquid state, I think it's going to work out okay, but we'll just have to see what happens. So I got 6 ingredients going into 4 trays. I have some separators here just to kind of keep the liquids from touching each other. We're going to freeze them overnight and then put them in the freeze dryer and see how they turn out. Okay, so check this out. Here's my freeze dryer. So we got a tray up in here. We have a tray here, tray here, tray here. This tray right here basically exploded. You can see all the garbage down here. I bet you dollars to donuts this stuff right here is fish sauce. And that stuff is like seawater. So we're going to go ahead and open this up and see what's going on. Yep, I have fish written there. So this is the fish sauce that basically exploded. You can see it on the door, and you can see it all throughout here. I see the top up here is all my other stuff. This right here is soy sauce, which looked like it came out pretty good. And down here on the bottom is oyster sauce. We're going to go ahead and take this in the kitchen and take a look. Here are my results of the Asian ingredients I freeze dried. The first thing we have here is soybean paste, and that came out as one big huge chunk. This is definitely going to have to be ground up into a powder to use, but this is very heavy, very dense. The next thing we have here, these are my prepared black soybeans. This is kind of a sweet type of, I don't know if we call it a vegetable, but it's a sweet dish. And you can see some crystallization here, and there's mixed in with the black soybeans or some bamboo shoots and some water chestnuts. And so this came out to be pretty good. You can see underneath where the sweet syrup was. So this will just be packaged up and not ground up because I don't want to, mess up my soybeans and the water chestnuts. And then the last thing here is the ginger. I've done ginger before, so the ginger came out to be really, really nice. It almost feels like sawdust. It's kind of a weird texture here. So these items worked out really good with our Oriental or Asian ingredients. This tray right here is our soy sauce, and you can tell from some of this is a very salty ingredient, and you can see on the sides of the pan where there were some splatters, and this was mixed 1 to 5, so 1 part soy sauce, 5 parts water. Altogether this is a half a cup of soy sauce that was put in with 2.5 cups of water, and it's quite stuck to the tray, so this will have to be scraped out. And I'm not disappointed, but I think we can still use that. The next tray had oyster sauce in it. And oyster sauce is kind of a sweet sauce like hoisin sauce is. And so this had very little salt. And it also kind of stuck. I can still scrape this off and use it. So this turned out better than I thought it would be. Now this is the worst of the worst. This is my fish sauce. And fish sauce is very, very salty. It's trying to freeze dry fish sauce is like trying to freeze dry ocean water. So this is the one that really exploded in my freeze dryer. You can kind of see the shrapnel marks around. I mean, it just splattered everywhere. So as this was warming up and trying to sublimate, it went back, instead of going from a solid to a gas, it basically just thawed out and went to a liquid, and under the vacuum it just splattered and boiled, and it really came out to be something really sticky. But I think this is going to be reusable. Well, not reusable, but I think this, I can still probably use this. And oh boy, you can just smell, just scraping that, you can just smell the pungent smell of fish sauce. And this was also a half a cup of fish sauce to 2.5 cups of water, which made it a 1:5 ratio. So I'm going to go through and scrape these up and process in a food processor the soybean paste, and we'll see how it comes out. Here's our lineup. So right here, this is the fish sauce, and this stuff is just really, really salty. I lost probably maybe 1 to 2 teaspoons in the explosion that's now on my chamber wall, but most of this I recovered. All these two right here plus the soy sauce is a half a cup. So this is a half a cup of fish sauce. This is a half a cup of oyster sauce, which is kind of like a salty, sweet kind of sauce. This is my prepared black soybeans with water chestnuts and bamboo shoots. You can see the crystallization from the sugar that was in this, and this will just be packed up as is because I don't want to mess up my soybeans. This is my ginger, which is extremely light. It's just really weird. But the ginger root, of course, that's used a lot in Oriental cooking. This is my black soybeans. This thing was like a brick. I thought I was going to break my food processor grinding this up. And so you got to be really careful with some of these ingredients that get really, really hard. But this came out really, really good. Now this right here in my mortar and pestle, this is the soy sauce, and it's pretty salty as well. And this came out really good. This came out better than I suspected. It boiled a little bit, but everything remained in the tray. It did not splatter outside. So this right here is a half a cup of soy sauce. So we're going to reconstitute these and see if they taste as good as the original. Now we're going to reconstitute these. I'm going to put a little bit of a sample on each of these trays. So that was the fish sauce. This is the oyster sauce. This is the black, this is soybean paste. And this one down here is soy sauce. So we're going to add water to these and constitute these. And then I have the original sauces right here. I have the fish sauce here, I have the oyster sauce, and I have the soy sauce. I do not have the original soybean paste. So we're going to sample this. This just feels like it still needs a little bit of mixing. That tastes like soybean paste. That's really, really salty. So that came out okay. Let's try the fish sauce here. Like I said, this fish sauce is extremely salty, very pungent. Oh my gosh, that is so salty. But let's try some of the original stuff here. Oh my gosh, this is like, it's like eating a salt lick. That is, I don't want to use the term nasty, but it's a great ingredient, but it's salty. It's probably the saltiest stuff I've ever tasted before, but that's perfect. Okay, so let's move on to the oyster sauce here. Oh my gosh, I might have to get a drink of water. If you haven't tried fish sauce, give just a couple of drops to someone with a blindfold on and just watch them squirm. Okay, so this is oyster sauce. It's kind of a, how can I describe this? It's something that tastes familiar but just can't put your finger on it. But it's like hoisin sauce, but it's pretty good stuff. So oyster sauce is used a lot in cashew chicken. So let me get some of this original stuff here. Now this is a lot thicker than my sauce down here, so I probably put too much water there. Okay, that oyster sauce tastes exactly the same. Okay, this is the soybean paste, and it's really salty stuff too, and it tastes like soybean paste. And this is probably about the consistency of it when it came out of the tub. Okay, this back here is the soy sauce, and the soy sauce, it dissolved almost instantly. And soy sauce is like the main ingredient in a lot of Asian cooking. Okay, you know what that tastes like. And let's try some right out of the bottle. Gotta taste that again. Okay. This tasted just a little bit more salty than that, so I may have added too much water on this one. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to do some math on this. If each of these is 1 cup, well, other than the black beans, if each of these is 1 cup, I'd have to figure out how much powder would be used with so much water to say make a tablespoon of the end product. So I'll have to play around with the mathematics of this to reconstitute them back to their original form. But I'm very pleased with how everything turned out with these Asian ingredients. I love Chinese food and I love cooking it, and I think this will go a long ways. If I do the fish sauce, like I said, exploded in my freeze dryer, but I think I'll probably do this again. I think I can crank this up to 1 to 16 and still have it fit in the shell. But when you get it that diluted, it's going to come down to maybe a tablespoon of fish sauce, and that may be a problem. The fish sauce does say that once it's opened, it needs to be refrigerated. I don't know why, because it has so much salt in this, but I'm sure because the first ingredient is anchovy extract, and that's what needs to be refrigerated, is the fish part of this. So anyway, I'm happy with how this turned out. It might be something you might want to play around with. If you're into Oriental cooking, into Asian cooking, you might find a benefit with this. But for most of you out there, you probably would not go to this extreme. Maybe with the soy sauce, a lot of people use soy sauce in different things. Hoisin sauce is one that can be used and freeze dried, kind of like with the ketchups, because hoisin sauce does have a lot of sugar in it. That would be a good thing to freeze dry also. So there you go, Asian freeze drying. I hope you enjoyed this. The smells in my kitchen right now are very interesting. But thank you for your time, and please subscribe, and I will send you another video very soon. Thank you.